Now we're going to get on with our next live guest. We've got Clarissa Haas with us, our investigative reporter, and she is on the ground in Oakland, California, where AB5 has been law of the land now for about 2 weeks, and we've started to see some protests. Clarissa, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for taking the time to make the trip out there to give us some firsthand perspective about what's going on.
Sure. Thanks for having me on this morning. I'm in the truck with Rafael Quintero, and he owns Quintero Trucking, and he's been working at the port for 43 years. And there are probably 20 to 30 trucks that are protesting AB5 more or showed up not in their rigs today. But unfortunately, we're hearing that more are scheduled to come in later, like in about another 30 minutes to an hour. But Rafael said he was a little disappointed that the gates to the terminal were open, that the longshoremen, when they had a meeting on Friday, expected that there was 200 owner-operators at that meeting, and they were kind of the agreement that they wouldn't cross the line. They wouldn't go if the gate entrances were blocked, but the gates are open today.
Clarissa, it sounds like it's still very early on, but what are going to be some of the initial disruptions, if any, that you've noticed so far?
A lot of, like the Highway Patrol, the California Highway Patrol, and the port, officers have been here, and we're kind of directing the trucks to kind of move into a different lane, and right now, but and more are on their way from what we hear, and more have shown up. We got here early just to see, and owner-operators were already on the scene. But we're kind of circling back to outside the SSA terminal to see, that's where a lot of the focus from the drivers or the owner-operators was at the SSA terminal this morning. So it's unclear, kind of at this point.
So, Clarissa, this AB5 legislation impacts really mainly owner-operators who are leased on as independent contractors with a larger company. Owner-operators who are operating underneath their own MC number with their own operating authority aren't included in the legislation of AB5. But are those ones that are not directly affected by the legislation, are they standing in support with those folks who are directly impacted by the ruling and by the law? And is that something that they are talking about continuing to show that support, maybe if it even doesn't directly affect them in the business that they're doing?
Yeah, some trucking company owners are, that have owner-operators are supporting, their drivers who wanted to participate today. However, some of the larger carriers that only have company drivers, they are in line, to pull containers from the port today. So a lot of them are from the Central Valley. And larger companies, but a lot of the smaller trucking companies that depend on owner-operators are supporting. They understand the frustration that they have, and the drivers owner-operators I've talked to today just say, we want a choice. We understand our options, and we choose to be independent contractors or owner-operators. We want freedom. We want the choice to decide to be a company driver or an owner-operator.
And Clarissa, with this just being Monday, how many more protests are planned as we continue to move forward?
Right now, on Friday, there was talk about a 3-day protest, and then, some of the ones that, owner-operators who have been doing port work for 40-some years, 30 to 40 years, we're like, hey, let's focus on this issue and show, our strength on one day and see how that goes. But, it's still early, but, initially it was going to be a 3-day, and at this point, they were kind of focused on maybe a 1-dayer right now, but it could go longer. As the day progresses, I might know more information.
And with that, Clarissa, we saw protests last week down in Los Angeles that were aimed at kind of slow rolling traffic and kind of creating almost a traffic jam, which I asked the question, if traffic is backed up in LA, how do you know that it's a protest? Because traffic is always backed up in LA, right? But is there any indication of plans to have that protest as well to kind of take it out of the port and onto the roads, or is the focus here just specifically at the ports?
The focus here, and I've talked to, owner operators who have been doing this for a long time, and they don't want, they've said we don't want to, impede traffic in any way. We want to, show our support at the port and at the terminals, and focus their effort here. We don't want to, have like something that we're trying to do to get changed to turn into something negative if there's a crash or something, and that's the media focus would turn then on to that instead of what they're trying to do is to get AB5 off the books.
So when you're looking at these efforts, does there seem to be a single voice here or anything that's really being a leading charge with these protests, or is there kind of some disorganization amongst everything?
Yes, it's a little disorganized. There was a meeting and there was 200 owner operators that were part of this discussion, and some kind of made the decision to just not work and stay home, while others are decided to just bring their personal vehicles but like they've had, no one wants to take responsibility as the owner of this, because from when I've talked to owner operators, there's been litigation, like lawsuits filed by the port against protest organizers in the past over rates and different issues. So they're really, no one's like taking the credit, but there definitely are a few that I'm talking with and meeting with behind the scenes that are working hard to get that message out.
All right, Clarissa, well, we appreciate you being there and the work that you are doing to bring, as I mentioned, the first-person perspective to these protests. Are you looking at publishing some stories, maybe publishing some on social media about what's going on?
Yes. I'm going to post some, I've taken a few videos and taken some pictures this morning. And then, yes, I'm going to publish something like just my initial, and then write a larger piece later today about what's going on here.
Clarissa, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Okay, take care.
Right now, we're going to head back over to Sydney Edwards for a look at what is making top stories on freightwaves.com.